To a morning of inspiration. We call it the Inspirational Morning. Organized by Oriflame Friends. So we are a group of colleagues across many departments who, alongside the curriculum, alongside the job description, somewhere we decided, let's get together and start doing initiatives in the office to make our values of togetherness, spirit and passion come alive a little bit. So this is one of those events, and I am so excited for the presentation today. So we have truly an Oriflame legend who's been with us for a long time, but 3.5 years ago, he went on quite the incredible journey who has changed him in many ways, and now our sort of own Marco Polo of Oriflame maybe is coming to tell you all about that journey and about an incredible country. So without further ado, give him a big round of applause, Tony Igoe.
Can you hear me? It's okay, good. Hi, good morning. So, just so I know my audience, who has been to India? A few people, and you've come back as well, so that's quite good. So, good start. So, the morning greeting in India is very simple. Anyone know? So, namaste. If you want to be really formal, you can do this and say namaste. So, namaste, so good morning. And that's also goodbye as well. So you can manage it on both sides. But thank you so much, Jonathan, for organising this and setting it up for me to explain a little bit about what's affected me, I think, and what's changed some of my mindsets over the last 3.5 years. I've been there that time, but I think I've scratched the surface only. Not even scratched, I don't think. It's such a huge place. And today I just want to give you a small flavour of the things that I've been involved in. We have a link here as well, so my team in Delhi is on as well. So if you want to wave to them, I don't know if they can hear us, but they're sitting there and anxiously listening to the things I'm going to talk about them. So beware, you've changed things as well for me. So I'm not going to talk about lots of I'm not going to show lots of images and things, but I'm just going to talk to you today about a few different areas. And I think I've got until around 9 o'clock before the first group of people start leaving. 9:15 is the next checkpoint. So I'll try and make this 30 minutes only, and then we'll see how it goes. And if there's time for questions, then please, I'll be very happy to answer any of those at the end. And if you want to know more about India, then come and find me somewhere afterwards. So, let's just get rid of that video. So I'm going to talk about 5 things today. I'm talking about Oriflame, India and myself. Some of the perceptions of India. You might have lots of preconceived ideas about India and what it is. Talk about some of the extremes that go on there. It's an extreme country in every single sense. Of course, we have to talk about Oriflame, do we? Yes, we do a little bit. It's kind of affected me as well, so India and Oriflame, and then India and a little bit about the people that I've met and things that go on there. So, is that okay? Yeah. So, India and me. So, I moved there in January 2014. And I think the biggest single question that I've been asked since I've been there is, so what's it like in India? And at the start I used to try and come up with these long-winded explanations about, oh, it's this and that. But actually after I don't know, 6 months or a year, I've refined it down to one word. And that word is mad. Honestly, India is mad, isn't it, Shashi? And Shashi comes. It's just totally mad. And also, everyone seems to be rushing everywhere, trying to get there, but always late. And that's kind of a second reflection as well. So the place is chaotic, so many people. And I think, as far as I'm concerned, then India's challenged me in all sorts of different ways. I mean, it's been a roller coaster of emotions. I think sometimes I felt the highest high, and it has this effect on you. You can also feel the lowest low as well. So you kind of just juxtaposed emotional roller coaster. And I've driven in Delhi, which is not advisable, but most of the time I have been driven. And I think I've also been quite spoiled there as well, because, well, actually, the time I've been there, I've had a cook, I've had someone to clean, someone to iron my shirts, someone to drive me around, and you can focus on all the other things, which is basically the life and taking care of things. It's a bit too stressful to drive. So all these things, it feels that really it's been spoiled. But the one thing I've personally never done is I've never sort of taken advantage of those situations of the people that I've worked with. And in some ways, I feel quite blessed with that and pleased that I've not managed to do that. But it really challenging you so many different ways. So just actually going to hem shop for a bottle of milk is not such a stressful situation. But going to buy a bottle of milk from the shops in India is actually quite a stressful situation. If you actually let it become stressful, because when you go to the shops, you first of all got to get there, which is quite chaotic in the car. You've got to navigate to the shop. You've got to find the milk that's actually not been contaminated by temperature, because actually the infrastructure is quite hot. You've then got to negotiate beggars on the way back to the car who want money, because I'm a white guy and of course I have so much money that I have to be giving it out everywhere. And so just the little things like that are just things that really challenge you. And if you let it get to you, and if you're actually one of those people that, oh my God, I can't stand this. Because in India, there's only, I think there's only two states of mind. There's one, you either love India, or you actually hate it. I think it's that kind of, because if you have something in the middle, all these little things will wind you up. If you're actually not prepared for, you know, the food, the temperature, the culture, and all of these things, then it just gets you, But I've never managed to get wound up about going for milk, so I've managed to keep doing that. But I know that many people can do. And we've had lots of visitors during the time, and people in my team, they said, so what are you going to do with them? And I'm looking at you now here. And I say, well, basically, one of the tourist things it's never actually mentioned is just going for a drive on the street. Just a drive from the airport back to the house. You manage to see, of course, lots of cows. I've seen before in India a family motorbike. But India have many family motorbikes. You'll have Papa driving, Mama will be sitting side saddle because she has the sari, holding the baby. Maybe baby could be 1 or 2. And then on the front of the bike, between dad and handlebars, will be second kid. And sometimes third kid will be between mum and dad. Can you visually imagine that? And that's the kind of extreme situation that you get, and it never fails to excite me when I see these things, because it's just completely mad. It's mental. It shouldn't exist, but it does. And these things, yeah. So basically, when I've been to India, and I've been there, say, 3.5 years, people were Delhi belly. Of course I've had Delhi belly. I don't think my bowels have been the same for the last 3.5 years. But we'll not go into much detail on that. Many times I'm the proud sponsor of Imodium Plus. So that's one of the things that, and I've been stuck in traffic for hours. I've been in the car some days 16 and 18 hours, just going backwards and forwards. Can you imagine? That's going to suppliers and things like that, things we do for Oriflame. I've missed my flights before because I've been stuck in traffic, but always always with a positive attitude and knowing that not much you can do about it, so you kind of have to find a way to live with it. So I don't know if I've changed from an attitude point of view, but I've certainly changed from understanding that you can have to manage situations and be calm about it when things go a little bit wrong, and make sure that you can actually do something about it and not get too stressed most of the time. I've also been very privileged whilst I've been there to meet lots of fun people. I've also been to many festivals. My favourite festival is a festival called Holi. I don't know if any of you know the Holi festival. You've been, done it. It's basically, you end up looking like this. Just full of colour, and you're throwing colour everywhere. You've seen the photographs of it, but it's just a wonderful, happy festival. Plus it also helps that there's a lot of alcohol involved as well. And not that I've taken it as well, but there's a lot of marijuana drinks involved as well. And actually on the way to our factory in Roorkee, there's lots of wild marijuana plants growing on the street. But I bring Oriflame Cosmetics back here. I haven't brought any marijuana plants yet, so, and nor should I think, I shouldn't do that, should I really? Probably try to avoid that. Okay, enough about me. India and perceptions. What do you think, when you see and think about India, what do you think? Any ideas, anyone?
Lots of people.
Lots of people.
Great food.
Chilies. But India, I think India gets a really bad press when it comes to the international press. When you read about India in the newspaper, Aftonbladet ran a big piece a couple of days ago on a road called GB Road. I don't know if you read that. I mean, horrific, but they also set themselves up a little bit for some of these bad press things, because the perception is that you know, it's an underdeveloped country and it's basically unsafe there and terrible. But I think also India, to be cruel to some of that, they have quite extremes on certain issues, and we'll not get into those today, but discussions on homosexuality and marriage and relationships and promiscuity, we'll leave that for another time, maybe a few beers or something like that. But I don't know if you knew, but actually there was a war going on last Sunday, a war in England between India and Pakistan. Yeah, it carries on. Hardly anyone here will know what I'm talking about. Shashi probably. Maybe the Brits might. But there was a cricket competition this week, last 2 weeks. And India versus Pakistan is a huge deal. And it rolled over and actually Pakistan won. So I'm not so sure about the Jammu-Kashmir border now. It's going to be a little bit intense there. But so the cricket is, yeah. So I just made a few notes to remember. But basically, in terms of perceptions, yes, it's crowded. There's lots of people. But they seem to manage, and we get on and we find our way around. There's animals everywhere. I've not done tiger yet, but I've made every other animal. So on the typical journey to work, I will pass by definitely cow, obviously dog, no cats because they're somewhere else, occasional elephants, sometimes camels on the way to office, and oh, goats as well, definitely goats, and a few pigs. So that's just on the 15-20 minute journey into office. It's crowded, it is polluted as well. Delhi doesn't actually figure on the maps because Beijing seems to promote itself better in the pollution levels. But actually last November and December, Delhi for 2 months was the most polluted place in the world. There's a scale in which they measure, the environmentalist people will know about this PM 2.5. And it's the particle size that you measure in terms of pollution levels in the atmosphere. And we actually enjoy something around 25, 30, maybe 50 if it goes on a bad day here. On average it was around 400 in Delhi, and then the scale goes up to 999. And just after Diwali, it went off the scale. So can you imagine, you couldn't even see the wall over there, it was just so bad. But the government's trying to do something about it on a positive note. They're trying to make it a better place in terms of environment. They actually said a couple of weeks ago that they're going to ban all cars that are not electric. Is it 2020? Maybe you read that, Natasha? I think it was 2030. Yeah, 2030. So all cars go. So it's the first country to do that. And they're actually supporting more than America in terms of managing pollution. So we hope there's hope anyway for the future. India is totally corrupt. There's so many scandals about corruption there. But the government is really trying hard. The new government is making sure that there's investment coming into the country now and things are happening. So you hear about corruption. I'm trying to give you the picture of what it's like and the perception, but there's so many good things going on there. Yeah, you mentioned about super spicy food, but actually the food that you had a Sunday brunch with us, Clara and Loic, that was quite a boozy Sunday brunch, I can let everybody know. But this food is not, it's not hot, it's not spicy, it's really mellow and really nicely cooked. Of course you could eat chilies with as well, if you want to get that heat, but it's not one of these things like, oh my God, I can't. But there's my other friend with, he's a chili man, he quite likes. And on the other side of the thing, there's so much culture there in India when you actually start in terms of perceptions. Nobody really talks about that, but the history goes back so far, even as far as China history. Yeah, definitely. And there's a worship of multiple gods. And we had this OMG at the start here, 330 million gods. Can you even imagine discussing that for 5 years? But I don't know, one of my favorite gods is a god called Ganesha. And I'm actually a Catholic, so I should only worship one god, according to my Bibles and things. But yeah, this Ganesha is such an inspiration in some ways, and we've adopted him as our departmental, I don't know if you can say it's disrespectful, maybe mascot, but he's been our inspiration in terms of anyone who's been there has been introduced to Ganesh, and you'll see many Ganeshas on people's desks. If you've been to India, you'll get something from the team and a little explanation about who he is and what it's all about. Welcome, another Indian. Hey, Hamid. Fine, thank you. And for all of this negativity and perceptions about India, one of the cool things, and I forget what channel it is, but they actually have this program. It's a good news program, and it's on daily. And you kind of just watch that and feel so super happy. So in all the bad news that goes on, they have this good news slot. And it's just a wonderful thing to watch it. I remember one of the articles, there was a guy who lived on a street and he's been planting trees for the last 30 years, and now the neighborhood is really enjoying the fruits of his labor. And amongst all this chaos and amongst all these other things going on, there's such wonderful things also happening below the surface in India. So it's not all negativity and bad perception. So when you actually want to know more about India, then go and find an Indian, go and find someone to talk to and ask, is it really like this? Is it really, really like this? How are we doing for time? Good? Let me tell you about extremes, because India is, and this is one of the things I find quite fascinating. I mean, when you compare it with what maybe we're used to in Sweden or in Europe or other parts of the world. I'll give you a couple of extremes. Does anybody know what the most famous slum is called? It's in Mumbai. Maybe you've seen documentaries on it. It's called Dharavi, and it's basically an area in Mumbai. It's prime real estate. It's 1 square kilometre. Can you imagine 1 square kilometre? And guess how many people live there? Anyone? Just a guess, come on. 10 people? 10,000? In 1 square kilometre, 1.2 million people live there. But it's prime real estate. Mumbai is the most expensive city in terms of real estate. The actual rental there is something like €2.5 a month. And people, maybe this space here, there's 9, 10 people living in this type of space. But actually in that space, it's quite fascinating because there's so much fever and bad water. So typhoid is quite rife there, but people actually like living there and actually conduct business there. So in this 1 square kilometre, there's a turnover of business, of small people making things. And I guarantee you that you've had something made in this Derby. We actually don't use those facilities, but I'm sure you will have, because they turn over €350 million in that 1 square kilometre. And they want to knock this down and to rebuild it and to make the sanitation good. And I think that's a positive thing, but actually the community spirit that's actually there is much, much higher than anywhere you will get, because you actually have to know your neighbour because you're living on top of them. It's not that you can avoid that. So that whole spirit thing is going really well there, and it's something super positive. So I'm not so sure whether we should knock slums down. So that's another debate we can have in the longer term, but it exists and it carries on, and they're fighting against knocking it down. So India is, if you don't remember it or seen it, it's actually the world's largest democracy. So in terms of the number of people voting, well, there's 1.2, 1.3 billion people there now. 800 million people are allowed to vote. And when they vote, they go and get an indelible mark on their finger so they can't vote a second time. So that's the way of controlling it. It takes, when we go to the elections in Sweden, it takes us 1 day to do that. It takes us 6 weeks to do the voting in India. In every state where there's voting as well, there's also dry days. So those people needing a beer on those days, it's impossible. But, you know, so just imagine such a time to get the voting sorted out. And actually the voting was good in the last election to bring in a good party, the BJP party, so things are happening now with that party. It's also, for me, it's one of the extremes in terms of temperature. I mean, I'm a white guy from the UK, so I'm not used to so high temperatures. A little bit like the Irish, we like rain and we grew up with that, but a sunny day in Sweden is 23, 25, that would be a perfect. 30 is like, oh my God, it's a bit too hot. So let's start at 30. So some days, I think the most I've had officially in the shade is 49. And I tell you, I just basically turn into a red beetroot when you stand outside in 49 for a few minutes. But then in Delhi it's quite dry, so you just sweat a little bit and start to smell a little bit after a while. So deodorant's quite good. But then if you go to Mumbai or to South, then as soon as you step out, it's almost like having a shower. So 40-something degrees plus 100% humidity. It gets a little bit too much after a while. But again, it's another extreme, it's just completely mad. And the thing that I couldn't get to grips with at the very beginning when I started traveling in India, and people who've been there and stayed in hotels have seen this, you stay in a 5-star hotel, and then literally you come outside of the 5-star hotel, and next to the 5-star hotel there's people living on the streets, and under the roads, and people living in a cardboard box, and people with hardly anything. So in terms of extreme, you've got this 5-star next to minus 5-star almost. And that's something that you can't really come to terms with, but it exists everywhere. And this wealth and poverty thing goes on everywhere. I think some of the richest people in the world actually live in India, some of the wealthiest people. And they have this one festival there. It's called Kumbh Festival, and it's basically worshipping the Ganges. And I've cleansed my soul in the Ganges, so I'm a completely pure character, so nothing bad comes to me. Shash is from around that neighbourhood, so he knows about and this one festival, can you imagine how many people go to this one festival? It's in 4 places approximately every 3 years, so the same place has it every 12 years. And it was last year in this place called Haridwar, And Haridwar is quite close to our wellness factory in India. And it's not much bigger than Stockholm, to be quite honest with you. And on the special day, which was actually Valentine's Day last year, then guess how many people came to that one-day festival? 50 million. That's quite good. Just a little bit too much. You've done my expectation. Now, 40 million people came on one day to worship and to dip in the Ganges. Over the year, 100 million will come. But on that one day, can you imagine 14 million people? And the last extreme I just want to share with you is that the development's going so fast in India that in the morning, I remember 2 years ago, I remember going to a supplier visit in the morning. It was a label supplier. And we went on this rickety road to the factory. Then in the afternoon when we came back, they'd built a road. So we actually came back on the new road, which was quite amazing. So there's so much road and so much development going on. But when you look at the actual infrastructure, you think, oh my God, are they ever going to manage and get out of this situation? But you look at some areas, the progress is absolutely fantastic. It's so fast, it's just going at such a pace, and you know, I think it will take time, but with the right will, then these extremes will become a little bit less, maybe, but maybe we'll know more about them and understand them a little bit more. So, what next? What's the time? Are we doing good?
5 past.
5 past, good, okay. So still got everyone. So I think maybe I'll take 10 more minutes and we can finish up. So, Oriflame and India. As I said at the beginning, I need to talk about this a little bit. So Oriflame has been there since 95. And the weird thing is that although the selling is good, and at the moment it's a little bit flat, the potential for India is absolutely huge. So when you actually talk to anybody, wherever you go, female of course, but not male because they haven't got a bloody clue. But the females that you talk to, anywhere you go to, everybody knows Oriflame. Everybody knows Oriflame. It's mad, honestly. And it's been fantastic to actually be in that environment and understand it. And I honestly urge you, if you can do, and I know you kind of work in artwork and do things here, but if you ever get the chance to experience something about this direct selling company that we work for, because if you've never done that, you kind of don't understand who we are. You can't go to the shops and see things and stuff, but the direct selling thing is it's mental. Honestly, I can guarantee you. Is anyone here from the Swedish sales company? No? But we must be able to go to catalogue launches in Sweden. So if you've not been, speak to your manager or find out from someone in the Swedish sales company. But go and find out about it, because it's honestly like a religion. It's like nothing you've ever seen before. And I've had the chance to go to all these different events and opportunity meetings and director seminars and top 15 meetings in India, and it's been fantastic. And I'm not the most photogenic guy in the world, but I'm white and I'm overweight and big, and basically I've had, I don't know, at these places, events, I've had thousands of photographs clicked. And it's just really, it's also good for the ego as well, to want to be clicked so many times. But I want to share one thing about Oriflame in India. And they had, a few years ago, they introduced this mentor program. And the mentor program was to help up-and-coming consultants to achieve the next level. But I haven't got a clue about the success plan or anything to do with that side of our business, but I volunteered to be involved. And I mentored, over the last 3 years, I've mentored 4 people in total. And a few of them are on here. And these 2 people here, they are from Mumbai. And this lady here is from Chennai. And this lady here is from Delhi. And the lady from Chennai, she lost her husband 4 years ago. He died. her children have moved to Canada, so she's alone in the house. And when she took me back to the house, she could only talk about how grateful she was to Oriflame and how Oriflame bought her house for her. She's even painted it green, as you can see. That's the dedication. She has an SBO attached to the house, but she's in her late 40s, and she wants to prove to herself that she can actually do something in her life. So her son keeps telling her to come and live with him in Canada. She keeps saying, "No, I'm sorry, but I need to do this for myself." And she's so focused on Oriflame and wants Oriflame to be the guiding thing in her life and to make sure that she can actually prove to herself. And I was helping her to sort of realize some of those things, because I realized at the end, I don't need to know about success plan, I just need to know about human life and how to motivate and how to build teams and how to spot talent and all the things that we do in our day-to-day lives when we're working together with a team. And Shanti Pandyan, she's called now, she's the #1 leader in Chennai, and she's actually growing and developing and proving to herself that she can actually do it. And it's fantastic to see. It makes me feel super proud to be able to see that. And these are the two here. I don't know, Kamaljeet, if you're watching, you know about this, because she's a moaning old cow. But with the attitude losing from her, she actually has become such a positive person. And she's entered the top 15 in India, and she's now number 10, and is growing and developing. And again, she just needed some place to offload all of the negativity, and then she has such a positivity inside her soul that she's done extremely well over the last couple of years. And again feeling proud that she can do that. And the amount of warmth you get back from these people when you give something to them, it's just amazing. So for me, I felt fantastic doing it, and also very proud to have done it. And obviously you can see the results in some of the things that they're actually doing and getting out of Oriflame as such. And this mentor program, even if you do it here and do it with yourselves and do it with your colleagues, I think it's such a wonderful thing to do, because everyone's got something to share with someone else. So if you don't get a chance with Oriflame to do it with one of your colleagues and have fun doing it as well. Because I think all of these people have definitely benefited from me talking to them, and have benefited from their motivation as well to actually grow and develop within our company. So don't forget, go to a catalogue launch. They happen every 3 weeks in Sweden. Go to an opportunity meeting, find out where it is, and go and see some of this weird and wonderful company that we work for. Honestly, it's worthwhile, and I can guarantee that you'll get some good energies out of it. So don't forget. Okay, so last point, but not least, the people. So, I mean, I've met some incredible people. I've met some, really wonderful people. I've met Sikhs and Christians and Buddhists and Hindus and Jains and a few other strange religions as well during the time. And I've travelled in all sorts of different parts of India. So I've been in north, south, east and west on business, and also from a personal point of view as well. And I can just say that everyone I've actually met have been always super positive and super interesting. I've been to the marriage of different people. I actually went to Shashi marriage. So if you don't know, he's here for 6 months now, so look after him and embrace him. He's in quality. So he's a good guy. I've been to marriage. I've actually been to, sadly I've been to a funeral as well, a Hindu funeral, which actually Sikh funeral, and you know, again, it's an eye-opening experience, but something that I'll never ever forget. And I think that that is something to never forget. I also been experienced to a special word in India called jugaad. And if you want to know what jugaad is, then speak to one of the Indians. But actually, the posh and the nicest way to say it is out of the box thinking, I think, maybe. So then you could also, the Swedes can explain what lagom means to the Indians. But it's not the same word, but it's, but jugaad is a really special way of doing things. And again, I'll look into the camera if my team is looking. We don't do jugaad MPD. We do it, so don't forget. So to make sure. So yeah, so in terms of the people, I've been super late for things. I've been on time. I've been, you know, with people. I've been totally in control. I've been totally out of control. But again, as I said at the very beginning, with the people, I've always respected the people that I've worked with, and you get respect back from many people as well in the same situation. I've even sort of the guys who have supported me in terms of cooking and driving and cleaning and things like that. But none the least my colleagues and friends that I've met over there, everyone's been respectful and we've worked really well together. The one area that I've not had good experiences with people is the Indian government. So because we have a regulatory team in our team, and Sumit, if you're listening, he knows about this, we've been to quite a few government official meetings, and they're actually quite horrible to you. They make you feel like a small school child. You know, don't do this, don't do that. So apart from the government officials, the majority of people that I've met have been absolutely wonderful and fantastic, and I would never swap the experience of meeting these people for anything at all. It's been a really, really pleasurable thing to do. I think most of the time I try and take photographs in black and white, because actually when I'm next to Indian, I'm really white in the colour photographs that we take. But sometimes I've felt really very white in India and very little bit out of place. But the majority of the time, a lot of the time, I felt like the darkest Indian you could possibly find. So I felt very much in with the people and very much at home in that situation. And there's an infectious thing in India that once you've been there for some time, you start to have this head nod, and you know again about that. But don't we? It just means such a lot. It's almost like so this infectious head nod is like my parting thank you to you all, just to say it's been such a I must just tell you very quickly, we had an intern last summer, and she's from an Indian family. She's called Tanvi. She lives here in Stockholm. She was born in Stockholm. She's been raised in Stockholm. She went to Kortihå, and she came to us for 12 weeks. And she told me that in all her times visiting her grandparents, she never nodded. But she was with my team for, I don't know, it took her maybe 2 weeks. And she started. So this is a Swede, obviously an Indian Swede growing up in Sweden, never head nodding, and then she went back to her family and started head nodding with her father, and yeah. When I see her now in Stockholm, we give a little head nod just to say, hi, how's things, okay? So you have to manage just a little cute. And when I went to Indonesia, I actually was still in the Indian head nodding mode, and I tried to head nod to Indonesians. Had no effect at all. To kind of realize that it's very much for our Indian team. So, so there you go. I finished. Oh my God, India, thank you so much. It's been, yeah, good to listen. And the one thing I'll leave you with is, if you actually do come to India, want to come to India, get forced to come to India, I don't know if that will be the case. Maybe you need to come and rescue us from our own artwork issues sometime. But if you come to India, then I guarantee you that we'll look after you. We'll make sure that you don't eat roadside food and get deli belly. We're trying to give you the best experience. I'll always try to be an ambassador for India and make sure that you actually come back in a good way, and make sure that the time that you're there, you have the best of times possible, and that you remember it and think, yeah, what a great place. And the team wants to be part of this global structure. We're actually working hard to integrate where we can and to do all the things possible we can, and we'll continue to work hard to do that, and make sure that we're doing our thing in India to support whatever we're doing in our global work. And I, for that, will be ambassador driving that part of things, and hopefully I can, in a few years, come and tell you about something else that I've been up to. And so, thank you very much, and namaste to everybody.
Thank you very, very much, Tony. And also, of course, a goodie bag on behalf of us. What you picked for kind of products here was a tricky one, but we'll hope you'll be happy with it. Those of you who have to leave, you're welcome to leave, but also raise if there are any questions that you'd like to ask Tony while we have him here.
There's a new Indian word for you as well. Just to finish off, if you have no questions, that's dhanyavad, which is thank you. So, any questions? Are we done? Nothing? Thank you so much. Thank you.